Summer 2003 had yet to officially begin, but already Britain had experienced its sunniest first 4 months of the year in over a century. In March, record-breaking hours of sunshine were recorded in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. And by Easter, Britain was basking in the first of the heat waves that would come to define 2003.
It has all the hallmarks of summer. Though still only April, people flock to Scarborough Beach.
Beautiful. We could do an awful lot more.
I do actually remember. It got to April, and April is my birthday. April 4th, if you want to buy me a present. And my birthday can be anything from snowfall to vaguely nice. And then this year, I remember, we had a big party for my birthday, and it was like we opened up this big student house we were living in, and everyone turned up. And it's still, to this day, the best birthday party I've ever had. I don't remember a lot of it, but I'm told it was great.
Britain is currently enjoying a mini heatwave.
Just 12 days after OJ's best birthday ever, on the 16th of April, the temperature soared to a tropical 27.4 degrees Celsius at Stratfield Mortimer near Reading, making it the hottest April day for over half a century.
We were looking at a year where you were probably in the top 3, top 4 of sunniest, driest and warmest in all areas of the UK, really. And it was hot air coming all the way up from North Africa and staying there. Heat waves do not just suddenly appear. They're a result of dry, sunny weather which has been going on and building up for weeks and months at a time.
Plus 27 the week before Easter, which is, I mean, it's a bit hot, isn't it? It's a bit hot for a hot cross bun.
The sun is shining, right? You have to take that opportunity to just take advantage of the sun when it's out there, because you might not see it for months.
I don't think I had any expectations, mainly because 2003, for me, was a year that was pretty hedonistic. So I was just thinking, like, what's going to happen in an hour? So when I saw the hot weather, I'm like, that's it. Summer's here.
Picture this. It was Easter. We're building up to the bank holiday, and the sun is actually shining. It's 27 degrees. So as Brits, we did what we always do, and we treat the weather like a flash sale.
During Easter week, the weather teased us with summer vibes, and we only too happily swapped our scarves and sweaters for sandals and sunglasses.
I remember thinking, oh, I'm wearing T-shirts, and it's getting warmer. Even the shops kind of caught on to that, because all of a sudden you had the summer fashions coming out a little bit earlier, because people were starting to realise, OK, you know what? That woolly jumper, the big coat, forget it, see you, babe. That had the fling into the attic, and meanwhile, you know, we wanted to wear our polo shirts and the short shorts.
These days I'm very much a swimming costume girl. You know, back in the day, you go from the bikini to the tankini to the heavily reinforced all-in-one with double gusset and those fantastic, massive, great boob cups, which are great because if you are wearing a costume like that on the beach, and if it does get chilly, you can remove the foam cups and use them to drink soup out of, so you're kind of covered for all weathers.
In 2003, I was in my early 30s. I felt like I was just coming into my kind of fashion own, if you like. I really enjoyed the fashion of the time. It was a very kind of girl next door kind of beauty compared to nowadays. I actually felt like I was starting to get into my groove a little bit with it. My hair was lighter. I kind of toyed with the idea of going a little bit blonde, which seems kind of crazy now, but I did.
This is what we've got in store. Good spells of sunshine across the bulk of the country.
I remember plucking my eyebrows to almost nothing, which was a really bad idea.
It looks like it's going to be the warmest day of the year so far.
Shops like River Island and Topman, and I think Zara was just kind of becoming a thing then. And all of a sudden, you had this kind of access to what I would consider as being, you know, really fashionable stuff.
I was trying to sort of wear grungy stuff, you know, sort of a remnant from the 90s. Don't forget, I was a man in my early 40s then, pretending that I was still sort of in my 30s. I don't think I could pull it off, though.
I remember going down Swansea, down the main shopping street in Swansea. OK, it's not up there with the style capitals of Milan, Paris and London, but for me, Swansea was the one.
With high temperatures comes high demand, and the mini heatwave in April was good news for hotels and B&Bs up and down the country.
Don't forget, a few years before that, we'd had foot and mouth, and that really hit the rural parts of the country. So you had these sort of wonderful little small businesses, B&Bs, country pubs that really suffered. So in a sense, these record-breaking temperatures were a gift to them.
Across this region, it's the same story. Businesses which had been dramatically affected by foot and mouth and which had been making a slow recovery have this year been given a significant boost.
There was also a kind of resurgence of the great British seaside town at that stage, because I think we're really lucky in the UK to have places like Blackpool, Aberystwyth, Skegness, these places that hold such fond memories for so many people, and they're gorgeous places actually, and when the sun's shining, chef's kiss.
I don't think there really is much need to go abroad at the moment, not when it's like this. Might as well stay at home and appreciate it for cheap.
It's a lot easier and cheaper for a lot of average British families to get to, isn't it, in England? So, nice when the weather's like this.
These places were starting to get really rammed before Easter, and people were returning to enjoy what was available closer to home.
There's actually something really special about a UK seaside town on the verge of a heatwave. It's like nowhere else.
This was Easter, but it felt like summer. In a bit of sun in April, we would have gone down there to make the most of it. We would have stayed there as long as possible because it's probably not coming back.
As thousands made the most of the Easter sunshine, elsewhere in the country the unseasonably warm temperatures had left forests and moorlands dangerously dry and at risk of fire.
The problem we've had in the last 6 weeks, we've had high pressure keeping the weather very dry. A number of areas have only had 10% of their usual rainfall in that period.
Temperatures as high as 81 degrees Fahrenheit 2 days before Good Friday, coupled with strong winds, led to outbreaks of forest fires from Dorset to Ayrshire, ripping through the UK countryside, threatening homes, vegetation and wildlife. In South Wales, dozens of houses and a children's home in Gwent were evacuated as firefighters battled a ferocious blaze.
My advice to anyone at the moment is not to use smoking materials in the open countryside or any other naked flame, and to be particularly careful. These fires run very, very quickly and people can get caught out.
This is something that more traditionally you see later on in the year, perhaps August. You hear of them happening all the time across Europe when literally it becomes a tinderbox.
Rainfall is minimal for months on end. You get this sort of high temperatures, sun, dry, and then with the winds, it just becomes a force of nature.
I remember at the time watching the news and seeing these forest fires, thinking, gosh, this would have amounted to billions of pounds worth of damage.
The driest March on record saw firefighters called to 874 incidents across the country, compared to just 173 in 2002.
Sometimes it's natural, sometimes it's just sparked off by combustion because of the extremely dry weather, but you've got to say that occasionally, sadly, people are having barbecues and they're a little bit remiss of how they deal with them.
It's highly unlikely to see something like that happening in April, but we did.
By Easter Sunday, 42 days of no rain led to multiple fires across parts of the country, causing 12 square miles of Dartmoor to set alight, as well as dozens of moorland fires across Teesside, Yorkshire and Scotland. As Britain was burning, finally, it looked like a reprieve was in store. And by the start of May, the long-awaited rainfall was a blessing for both farmers and firefighters.
The thing with bank holidays here in the UK is it's the hope that kills you, because you get so excited, especially in May, because May is bookended by bank holidays. We get all this extra time off. So in our little heart of hearts, we hope that it's going to be brilliant weather for both of these times, so that at least we can make the most of our time off.
You'll have a little bit of sunshine, you'll break your summer wardrobe out, your shorts will go on, you'll put your flip-flops on for the first time, and then you'll think, is that it? And it normally is.
We're galloping towards the end of May. What's it going to be like? And surprise, surprise, wasn't all that until the very last day. Heatwave.
Over the bank holiday at the end of May, temperatures in parts of the country reached an incredible 29 degrees Celsius, whilst our European counterparts made do with a paltry 18.
The fact that it was hot on a bank holiday, you know something's happening.
There was no escaping how hot it was everywhere. We didn't have aircon. And in the nightclubs, I remember, you know, in Time and Envy in Swansea, Christina Aguilera Dirty was on heavy rotation. And I remember the video, she's kind of stood underneath shower heads with her dancers, and I just remember thinking, oh, give me a shower head in Time and Envy, please, I need that.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Too hot for me, though.
All of a sudden, we've got the high pressure building in from the Azores, we've got this next plume of heat coming out of southern Europe, and that seemed to accelerate northwards.
In the heat of the midday sun, the temperatures were higher in parts of England, Wales and Scotland than Corfu and the Costa del Sol.
One of the wonderful things about being British is the fact that we have a very large chip on our shoulder about the weather, which means that as soon as the temperature even 0.1 inches above a country which is traditionally hot, I mean, it's hotter than Barbados. Yes, that's because it's winter in Barbados.
Thank you. Well, here in Western and across the country, the heat wave means ice cream sellers in particular have been doing a roaring trade. In fact, it's been about as hot here today as in some parts of the Costa del Sol.
And I used to do this when I was on the weather. You would see what the top temperature was in a particular place. Let's say Holmfirth was going to be 28, and meanwhile Marbella was going to be 26. You associate somewhere like Marbella as being hot. You'd be there in your budgie smugglers, in the sun, drink a little sangria, whereas generally that's not what you do in Holmfirth. Kind of makes people realise, oh, actually, this is unusual. And it's a really nice storytelling technique when you're presenting a weather forecast.
I think if you ever looked at every story of Britain hotter than Med, Britain hotter than Egypt, Britain hotter than wherever, you would find a million stories. And I'm here for it.
And by the start of June, temperatures soared to a sizzling 84 degrees Fahrenheit, bringing a taste of the continental lifestyle to our typically mild shores.
Do you know, for a short period of time, it felt like the Mediterranean had come to us rather than us going to the Mediterranean. The whole idea of alfresco dining was something that was very other. You went on holiday to go and do that. All of a sudden, we're being cosmopolitan enough to have a bottle of wine in the evening while sitting in our back garden. Who needs to go to France?
I do wonder whether that hot summer of 2003 was the kind of beginning of us Brits thinking, yeah, we can offer a kind of continental drinking, dining experience here. I remember the pub down the road just flinging a couple of chairs outside. There's your alfresco dining, have it.
As we chose to ditch indoor for outdoor, supermarket chain Asda reported an increase in sales of garden furniture of almost 200%.
The Brits get into this holiday mode when there's a bit of heat. They want to do everything outside, sit outside, drink outside, eat outside, sleep outside. If you had a balcony, oh, let's sleep on the balcony.
Suddenly it's tables out on the street and alfresco dining. Everyone's taking a lot more interest in how their gardens look and spending more money.
But whilst much of the country basked in the heat, the high temperatures posed a serious risk to the elderly and vulnerable.
It's the elderly, of course, who are particularly vulnerable in a heat wave and need to take extra care, having plenty of fluids, sitting near a fan or an open window, staying in the shade, wearing light clothing. Very basic steps, but they could mean the difference between life and death.
We kind of throw around the word heat stroke, but we don't tend to think about actually what the reality of that is. There's a reason why you hear it in the news to take care of either the very old, the very young, or the infirm during times of extreme weather temperatures, particularly with heat. If you're already in a position where you're depleted in some way or you aren't able to get help, heat stroke becomes something really very serious.
There's a reason why heat kills more people than floods, hurricanes and tornadoes put together. And it can be dangerous, particularly for people living on their own, particularly for people who are vulnerable and have other medical conditions. In the countries that are used to it, heat is treated with the respect that it deserves.
One of the things that we don't tend to think about is elderly people who are perfectly capable of looking after themselves during normal times, but with no one regularly checking on them to make sure that they're able to look after themselves during this incredibly hot period of weather. That was where it's thought that the most of these deaths occurred, during the heat wave of 2003.